Welcome to Open Minds Radio with Alejandro Rojas. Open Minds Radio is your UFO news authority, presenting evidence and the latest news regarding the UFO phenomenon. Here's your host, Alejandro Rojas.
I'm a football player, which is soccer for those of you who don't know that the rest of the world calls soccer football, because they all have weird accents like that. It's football. All right, thank you for joining the show. This is Open Minds Radio, your UFO news authority, and we have another incredible show. Good Lord, people, is this good stuff. Today, we have David Eckhart, and I don't know that I haven't really seen him out there that much. And this is a guy, because I know a lot of you are fans of, although a lot of you don't like the show too, because they kind of, you guys are like, they're debunking stuff, man. But Fact or Faked, our good buddy Ben Hansen, who's been on the show, we talk to him once in a while, actually went on this investigation, Ben Hansen being the lead investigator for Fact or Faked. Although my favorite is Jael. I think she's gorgeous. She is so pretty. But David Eckhart was a guy who said he had a lot of weird stuff going on. In fact, he had gotten some pictures and video that the crew found interesting. So they went out there and they investigated his case. And although they felt they could probably reproduce his videos and pictures, they felt that he was such a genuine person that he was probably telling the truth. They also did an investigation where their equipment had electrical problems, which was kind of weird. And he also talked about David worms coming up out of the ground en masse. And they kind of experienced that themselves when they were doing the investigation. They show this big wad of worms, which is kind of gross because worms are icky. So it's kind of cool, and they didn't get a whole lot into a story because they were investigating, so that's what we're doing for you. We're going to fill in all those gaps and let you know what this guy's about, when this all started, this phenomena for David, what he's experiencing, and they kind of alluded to it but did not give any details, how this gentleman feels he is communicating with these creatures that are interacting with him in very strange and odd ways. And then you might have noticed on one of the videos, they didn't get into this either. There's lots of strobing and lights and craziness going on. They didn't explain why he does that. So he explained, he's going to explain to us what's going on here. So this is going to be a very interesting show. This David Eckhart and the weird stuff happening to this gentleman. Well, you can decide for yourselves if you buy it or not. But either way, if you haven't seen the Fact or Fake, go check it out. It's really good because the first half has a lot of Jael, and then the second half has David Eckhart. So it's good viewing. We also want to thank the Arizona UFO Sightings Group for having Michael and Antonio out at their event this last weekend. For those of you who are brave enough to ditch your moms and go out to Kingman, Arizona to go see them talk. Actually, you could have gone and seen Michael and Antonio, then driven home or flown home, and then seen your mom and fly back for, I think they had some events going on today. I think it actually ends today. They have stuff going on there. But ArizonaUFOsightings.com was the event, and thanks for having them out. They had a good time. Also, coming up, a couple other things you're going to be able to see Open Minds personnel at Roswell, July 1st through the 4th. Another anniversary of the Roswell event. Every year, the city has a festival where they have a parade and they have speakers. There's a famous museum there, and that's where we're going to have a table this year. This is our first year in the museum at a table, and the timing is perfect because a couple of the contributors to this magazine were Stanton Friedman and Don Schmidt, who will also be at the Roswell Museum. So come to Roswell, pick up a magazine from us, go get it signed by Don and Stanton, and then you can get a group picture of me and Antonio and Don and Stanton, and we'll do a straight picture, and we'll even do funny face pictures for you. I'll put like rabbit ears behind Stanton Friedman's head, and it'll be a lot of fun. So come see us in Roswell. UFO Festival Roswell.com is the website there, but you could just put Roswell, New Mexico, and you're going to find it because it's the city's event, and they got a lot going on. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then also later that month will be MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network. And we were talking a little bit earlier. I've always called it MUFON. Of course, I was on one of their directors. I forget what kind of director they call it. But anyway, I've been part of MUFON for a long time. But somebody was saying that some people, or I think it was even Jason, said he heard people calling it MUFON.
Correct.
I hadn't heard that. MUFON. Like
MUFON.
Mew.
Mew.
Like the land of Mew. There's like a famous legend of some possible type of place called Mew. So maybe that's what it is. I don't know what this Mew stuff comes from. I think it's probably just someone with a weird accent. It's probably the same people who call soccer football. So MUFON. Anyway, they have a symposium every year. This year it's going to be in Irvine, California, July 29th through the 31st. You can go to MUFON.com, and we're going to have a table there. So, again, you can come see us, hang out, shake our hands. And I know Stanton's going to be there, but some of our other contributors will be there. So, otherwise, Antonio will sign your magazine for you. Jason will sign it. He's a regular contributor. And Maureen is writing something at some point, right? I think in our next magazine she has a review, so you can... Maybe she'll be there and sign that too. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Come see us at all these cool places this summer. Speaking of Maureen, she has an exciting, what do you call it, prize thing?
Contest.
That's the word I'm looking for. She has an exciting contest going on right now. She just put up, and that is win an Open Minds UFO prize pack. So this is really cool. You can win a year's subscription to the magazine, an Open Minds Investigates DVD, an Open Minds coffee mug. These things are sharp looking. I usually have one right now. I have Starbucks, sorry. And then also a signed Legacy of UFO Case Files poster by Michael Schratt. So if you haven't seen this, well, if you've seen our webpage, we just put one up today with the UFO Case Files Rebuild, where Michael does pictures of UFOs from witness testimony. We made a poster with like dozens of these things. Really cool poster. We'll send you one of these signed if you win. How do you win? What you do is go retweet our Twitter message that we put out there on the package. So you have to have Twitter and go to Open Minds TV. That's our Twitter name, Open Minds TV, and find this thing. Retweet that, and then also put it up on your Facebook. Some of you are saying, well, I have Facebook, but I don't have Twitter. Well, get with it. Go call your grandma and ask her how to get on Twitter, because she's probably already on Twitter. I don't know what you're doing. You need to be on Twitter with everybody else. It's free, it's easy, and we have all kinds of cool messages and links that go out all the time. So Twitter it, Facebook it, will help you be online, a social networking guru. At the same time, you'll have a chance to win this incredible prize from this contest that Maureen is doing. She's great, guys. So that's all the kind of personal business news going on where you can check us out and cool stuff going on. So go check all this out. And as usual on the website, you can check out the news, because we keep up with the latest and greatest UFO news headlines, and we have the greatest and latest UFO news correspondent, Jason McClellan, here with us to tell us all about what's been going down.
Hello, Alejandro. Thank you, sir. And greetings, everyone. This is your Open Minds news brief for Monday, May 9th, 2011. We'll start out with an sort of odd story from last week. A video was published to the internet last Monday allegedly depicting an extraterrestrial who was supposedly recovered following a UFO crash. At least two sources claim to have received the video from an anonymous source, along with the promise of 6 more videos still to come. The website allnewsweb.com posted the video to their website and YouTube channel with an accompanying story suggesting that the extraterrestrial in the video could possibly be a survivor of the Roswell UFO crash. The Alien Disclosure Group also claims to have received the video from an anonymous source, and they too posted it to their YouTube channel and their Facebook page. And you and I did some digging into this, Alejandro, trying to get some more information about the video that was posted, and Grant Cameron from presidentialufo.com also did some digging. And there's lots of strange things going on with this video. I mean, first of all, from a technical standpoint, there are odd things. I mean, this video is it's given the appearance of being very old, from the time of the 40s, 50s. So it's got all sorts of film grain and scratches and things in it, and it's got this strange projector clicking noise or something. And this all seems to be very artificial, as if it were added as a special effect. The origin of the video is very strange. We were able to track it down and find out that while All News Web and these other sites claimed the video, they put it up on Monday, we actually found somebody who put it up on Sunday, the day before. And that mysterious person since then has put up a video. I think it just went up today, a third video in this series. There's this other video showing a UFO and a UFO recovery. And this third video went up today in response to articles that we have written, that Grant Cameron and others have written, pointing out all the flaws and problems with these mysterious videos. And the video today was very strange. It just kind of has a message addressing people, saying, to all of you who are questioning the video, you're wrong. None of you are right.
Yeah, the broken English on this thing, so who knows where it's from. Of course, like you said, it's kind of purporting to be from KGB Russian film, although, well, it was All News Web who said it was, his source said Roswell, so that doesn't make sense. But, yeah, there's Paul Robinson helped investigate this with us, but this first source, the one who put up the video today, seems to be the real source. And I thought what was interesting is they put up a video with the UFO and the crash UFO and the dead alien, like in mid-April.
Right.
And nobody paid attention.
Right.
Of course, it's got the interesting puppet or model or whatever that might be, but it doesn't have the movement like the second video does, which is more interesting, and the blinking of the eyes of this alien and stuff like that. But still, it seems like that nobody paid attention to their first video, so they went and publicized the second one a little more, sent it around to some popular sites, and All News Web is pretty popular especially for posting anything. And the Russian videos recently that turned out to be the chicken and bread, although All News Web says it wasn't chicken and bread, that it was an alien, and that we're trying to be tricked here. So,
right, the chicken and bread story was the cover story.
Ivan
0135.
0135. Ivan 0135, just for people who are wondering, where the video is. On YouTube, if
that
you
was
look
the original
at that,
poster so far that we've been able to determine.
And we've talked about this before. This YouTube site was created just for these videos,
right,
which is always a red flag.
Right. But you can go to our website, openminds.tv, and read the article that has the details that we were able to dig up and some of the things we point out about these videos. And my thought is still that this is going to turn out to be some sort of viral marketing campaign for an upcoming movie or video game or something like that. A lot of people are suggesting Super 8, but I doubt that.
I don't think it's viral at this point, because if you look at the viral things, typically when they come out, they're viral. Because just today, for instance, a Green Lantern viral videos came up, or a viral websites. And the other is that even if they don't tell you, they tell you pretty quick.
Right. And you make a good point. I mean, even Super 8, they are doing a huge viral thing right now, but they have their own separate site created for it. It's like Super 8 Cutting Room or something like that, where they're putting these simulated old video clips up.
Did you see the Green Lantern one, too?
I haven't seen that one.
A website put up where these people are claiming to be an amateur astronomy type of group that believes in aliens, and they're looking for extraterrestrials, but there's ads and stuff, and they tell you, even from the Green Lantern website, check out our viral blog. So you know that it's all viral and everything, although it seems real, with the characters and stuff. So at this point, just because it's been so long, I'm not so sure it's viral anymore.
That's a good point.
So it might be just like we've seen it before, this hoaxing stuff. Although foreign viral, the Spanish viral video that came out a couple years ago, where it was a UFO and splashed and turned out to be part of a TV show, it took them some time to reveal, till they had a making of television show to reveal that actually was a viral video. So if this is Russian or something, maybe we won't know for a while.
Lots of mystery around it, but
yeah, because you really miss out on your marketing if you don't tell people quickly. Because
Right.
right now they've got all these people watching. If they tell people, "Oh, this is our viral video," and then everybody's going to go to their website to look at what the marketing.
however, if history is any indicator with the mainstream media, in another month, the mainstream media will pick up on it and blast it out as major news, breaking news that
the
just
Sun.
happened. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. In other news, a new study suggests that Saturn's moon Titan may have a huge ocean of liquid water beneath its surface. The data behind the study was provided by NASA's Cassini space probe. This new study isn't the first to suggest that an underground ocean is on Titan, but as Space.com points out, it adds another line of evidence in support of this supposition, which could make the intriguing moon, a likelier candidate to support life as we know it. Rosemarie Balland of the Royal Observatory of Belgium in Brussels is the lead author of the new study. Previous studies found that Titan's tilt and movement of inertia don't make much sense if the moon is completely solid, but that the numbers could work out if the moon has an underground ocean. Ballant and her colleagues used the information from previous studies to launch their research, which led the team's conclusion that Titan's orbital behavior indeed makes sense if the moon is assumed to have a solid interior surrounded by a liquid water ocean, which itself sits beneath an icy shell. So another discovery on Titan. I mean, Titan continues to have all these discoveries, and as you have posted a couple stories, I think this just last week, about how Titan is possibly one of NASA's next missions.
I think I posted one today too. I think that reiterated that might be one of the next missions too. And I didn't read the entire story because the story did have something to do with, I think it was today, manned missions.
Yeah, I think you're right.
That would be pretty cool, pretty interesting.
Right. And they have on Titan before found bodies of liquid. They found a lake of liquid methane and ethane hydrocarbon in Titan's polar regions in 2008.
That's not something you'd want to go swimming in.
No, but this underground ocean sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. How incredible would that be? A whole underground aquatic civilization.
Yeah. That's something that is sort of beyond our comprehension, but I think that's probably more common than we realize, some sort of underground worlds.
Yeah. People think that.
I think that's what's going on the moon.
Really?
I do.
It's an interesting theory.
Yeah. In political news, Denver held its mayoral election last week, and I'm sad to report that our friend Jeff Peckman did not win the election. Although Peckman made lots of headlines, he was only able to secure 0.7% of the votes, and that's just shy of 800 votes overall. But in a small victory, he didn't come in last. Candidate Ken Simpson only managed to get a few more than 500 votes. So Peckman didn't come in last, so that's a small victory there for him.
Yep.
As you may remember, Peckman gained national media attention last year with his ballot initiative for the city of Denver to create an extraterrestrial affairs commission, and that initiative did not pass. So Peckman struck out again, but I have a feeling we'll be hearing more from him soon.
Yeah. It was kind of funny when I gave him a call to talk to him about it. I was like, I know you're probably busy today because the news had just come out. I was thinking he's swamped with media and stuff like this. And he's like, yeah, I've only got a couple minutes before my mom's going to call and I got to go pick her up from the store. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, and I didn't have too much time. But it was, ever the positive guy.
Yeah.
And looking forward to the connections he made because he's such a nice guy, made a lot of friends with the other candidates and with some of the other political leaders involved with the whole process and with the media. I mean, they were really nice to him. You can imagine how people could go crazy with this. And there was a lot of fun to be had, But still, they were pretty nice to him.
That's good. That's good. He is a nice guy.
Yeah.
So we wish him the best in his next endeavor with that, whatever that might be.
Yep. Well, you'll know that you'll hear it first here on Open Minds Radio.
He didn't spill anything to you? Is he going to run for president?
No, he didn't spill anything.
Well, keep me in the loop.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to skip a story here. Hopefully our director, Maureen, can keep up with me here. But MSNBC posted an article last week trying to poke holes in claims made by a San Diego-based UFO hunter. Ed Grimsley is known for his night vision videos that he believes to show UFOs shooting lasers at each other, battling it out. MSNBC quoted Robert Schaefer, a UFO investigator with the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, as saying, many of the objects they're seeing are birds or bats, or faint satellites in Earth orbit. Schaefer further suggests that Grimsley doesn't understand how night vision goggles work and therefore doesn't understand what he's seeing. And I've seen Grimsley's videos, and I've actually gone on one of Ed Grimsley's night hunts or night sky watches. And there are a lot of strange things that you see through these military-grade night vision goggles he uses. And even some of the attempts that this guy used to poke holes in what Grimsley said, I don't know if I doubt they're UFOs battling it out. But you can definitely see these objects moving at high velocities through the sky. And yeah, you can definitely see satellites and things like that. But these other objects will be moving rapidly, then slow down and change directions very rapidly and shoot off another way. And they'll pass other lights in the sky, and they'll interact with each other.
Well, if you go look at this story that we posted, people, the video that MSNBC put up with Grimsley's story is incredible. I mean, it's got some really cool things. You see this lit up object flying across and then totally turns around and goes back the other way. Now, I agree it's unfortunate that Grimsley kind of pushes that there's a battle.
Right.
Because there's no evidence of that whatsoever in these videos. And, even though he feels that way, and he feels maybe he's seen some stuff to relate that, but these videos don't demonstrate that. But they certainly demonstrate more than birds and stuff with this Schaefer guy. It's unfortunate that they got a total skeptic who's just going to blow off everything that they've seen there.
Right.
Because the video is definitely interesting, and I don't understand how he could call those things birds and stuff. They showed a great video with that story.
And he also goes into talking about, saying that Grimsley doesn't know how the technology works, and he cites artifacts and things that are created by night vision, because night vision is, sucking light from other sources.
We know that,
but
he knows that.
You see these lights moving through the sky and changing direction and stuff. Those aren't just artifacts.
Artifacts in night vision you've seen. You can see blinking and things coming in and out. But these are like lights turning on and off, and maybe kind of slight movement and stuff, but not an object that is flying across the screen and then going right back.
And like I said, I've been on one of these sky watches with Ed Grimsley, and so has our colleague Maureen. And we both, with these night vision goggles, saw many weird things. And we've seen a lot of things in the sky, and we've watched a lot of video.
Yeah.
And this stuff with the night vision goggles, you see some weird stuff.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's not only Grimsley, of course, other people. We had the story we talked about, the California, I think it was Fresno video out there from several years ago, and then the Sun reposted it and said it was Dublin, Ireland, when it wasn't. It was actually in California. But still, that's a great video with lights that are in a triangular formation going across the sky. There's a lot of really good night vision video out there, and I've looked with night vision videos, and I've seen a lot of stuff. I can't say for sure I saw something I couldn't say was a satellite for sure, but night vision is the way to go, people. I mean, watch the sky with some night vision. You'll see some weird stuff.
You'll see something, yeah, for sure.
And right now, it's a little expensive and difficult to attach a night vision to a camera to videotape, and it makes it even harder than looking through the scope. But people are still getting stuff.
Right.
With by doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. Night vision's the way to go. You'll see some interesting things.
This Schaefer is full of
I think he needs to go on a night sky watch.
I think they're both wrong. I don't think that we see him battling up there, and on the other side, I don't think we're just seeing bats and birds and stuff.
Well said, my friend.
Thank you.
And In our last story for today, a 70-year-old Chinese man sold many of his possessions in order to fund the creation of a UFO landing and greeting site, complete with cottages that will serve as hotel rooms for visiting extraterrestrials. He's apparently looking for partners to help with his operating cost, because supposedly this thing is on a huge field, and he's got like observation towers to watch the skies. And he does this. This guy is an engineer, and he's the founder and chairman of the Dalian UFO Research Society. It was established in 1984, and the society apparently has 400 members.
Yeah, it's funny that the quote by his wife that they used to have 4 apartments, and he sold 3 of them to make this.
I love that.
And now they live in a tiny apartment with very little room. But
she says that makes him happy. What can I say?
Exactly.
Well, that's great. This guy's really excited. And apparently, they've been operating this place for 2 years now, and it's very expensive, and that's why he's looking for people to help run this thing, because he does sit there and watch the skies, and they're waiting for UFOs to come. So.
Maybe I'll go join his team at one point.
I would like that.
I'll Twitter and Facebook from there.
It would work. That'd be your UFO lookout. We could do the radio show from the tower.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Excellent. Well, Alejandro, that is it for the news. Remember to check out these stories and more at openminds.tv, your source for UFO-related news. I'm Jason McClellan, your Open Minds correspondent, and you've been briefed. Back to you, Alejandro.
All right. Thank you, Jason. Wonderful news as usual. Just some incredible stuff going on out there. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, you got to keep up to date on everything going on because there's so much going on. Oh, somebody in the chat made a good point that use night vision in the day too, because I'll bet you can't see some stuff up in the sky in the day. That's a good point, my friend. The other thing the Schaefer guy said that I remember is that he said you can't see anything in night vision that you couldn't see with binoculars. And anybody who's looked at the night sky with binoculars and then with night vision know that that is absolutely false. False, Mr. Schaefer. You should be ashamed. Some of the other stories going on OpenMinds.tv. I mentioned earlier that we have more UFO case files revealed, the Michael Schratt stuff that he puts up there, the pictures of UFO sightings that have happened in the past. So he goes through all of these great UFO sightings and then recreates them. And that's part of that poster you can win by tweeting and Facebooking our message that you can see up there on Facebook and Twitter. So also, I kind of had an interesting encounter earlier this week with some flares over the Barry Goldwater Range. And, you know, I am shocked. You've heard me on the show when we've talked about the Phoenix Lights before, and I've talked about how that 10 o'clock sighting, you know, the last one, a lot of the UFO researchers say that those were flares, and I'm like, hey, I live halfway between Maricopa and Goldwater Range. There's no way if there were flares over my house, they couldn't see them in Phoenix. I have found myself to be dead wrong. I saw flares, and maybe they were doing this because of, practicing just in case something happened with Osama, retaliation or something. But there were flares for a couple evenings, and I got some pictures and videos, and I put those up, and these flares are so bright and they're so high that actually it does seem as though they probably could have seen these from Phoenix. I'm not saying, certainly not the entire Phoenix Lights phenomena was flares, just this 10 o'clock, because, you know, what some people think is that, you know, people had these UFO sightings all day long across the entire state, thousands of witnesses, and so what the military did was drop some flares at 10 o'clock so that they could say, oh, you know, those jokers just saw flares. So, and I always thought, there's no way there were flares, but maybe those were flares at 10 o'clock. I'm admitting that I could have been wrong. You know what? You got to follow the evidence. I don't know for sure. I wasn't there, people, but it's possible. And that's something to think about, I think. Anyways, you can see the videos and the pictures up at our website if you want to take a look for yourself, especially if you saw those 10 o'clock lights. You know, go check this out and see if maybe this is similar to what you saw, and let me know. And if you think you saw something totally different, then that's some good information for us to know. All right, guys. What I need you to do now is prepare for this great interview with David Eckhart. This is going to be a lot of fun because he's just certainly a this is new and this is different. And then, like I said, Fact or Fake walked away believing that this guy's probably telling the truth. So let's listen to our great guest tonight, David Eckhart.
All right. Well, thanks for talking to me today. I'm excited to talk to you, especially after watching the Fact or Fake episode. So I guess my first question would be, when did these experiences start? Did they start in this home out in Florida?
No, well, I had my first experience. I was about maybe 19 years old, out in the woods with some friends, and it resulted in chasing one of these entities. I didn't know what it was that I was chasing, and well, it started out that we was, I'm moved down to Gulf Breeze, Florida, and I had a friend. I gotta mention his name, but he was showing me and my other buddy around, and he took us out to these woods, and we was bahaing through this, the woods, and we ended up stopping the car, and I was sitting in the back seat, and I seen this light go down behind the trees, and I was just joking. I said, "Look, guys, a UFO." I was just joking. It looked like it was strange, but it was like over the tops of the pine trees, and we all looked at it, and it just kind of disappeared. But my buddy said, "There's a pond over here. Let's go build a fire by the pond and enjoy it." And so, as we was got out of the car and we was following him through the woods, I noticed there was a light to the woods, and but it was off in the distance, and it looked like maybe a flashlight or something like that. And I kept asking him. He says, "Oh, there's people that come out here, all the time. It's probably just somebody." And as we got closer and closer to the pond, they kept moving in a little closer to us, but it was showing up in different spots. And then we got over and we started gathering wood to build a fire, and it kept getting closer and closer to us. And I'm thinking, whoever it is, they're not too far away. But then I ended up losing sight of it, and then me and my other buddy Bob, we were sitting there talking, and all of a sudden I seen this thing. It came over the pond, and it flashed, and it dropped down and went right by my ear. I could hear the swishing sound of it.
Wow.
Went in front of my buddy's face, and he fell back down on the ground. It came so close I could have caught it with my right hand.
Well, how big was this thing?
It was about the size of a softball, maybe a little bit bigger. But
what did it look like?
It had like a little red light to it, and had two white lights that would light up. It almost looked like a miniature face or something.
Wow.
But it wasn't illuminating like it was a light, but it was like it was glowing, but it would pulsate as it would move around, and it went straight back up to the top of the trees and flashed one more time and took off. I'm going like, "Wow, did you see that?" He said, "Yeah, what was that? I don't know." And that got my curiosity. I said, that was weird,
Yeah.
But my other buddy he was gathering wood at the time. He didn't see it, and so we went back to gathering wood, and I was sitting there looking around for it the whole time, and all of a sudden I seen it moving through the trees, and I told the guys, that there it is. So I took off running through the woods. All I had on was a pair of tennis shoes and jeans, and I was burrowing through briars and everything else, chasing this thing through the woods, and it was going in and out of the trees. It's like I was thinking maybe it was remote control or something, but I couldn't make out what it was. But and then I lost sight of it, and I stopped, and I was looking around, and it was right above my head, and it flashed me in the eyes like if somebody was taking your picture.
Wow.
Everything gets blacks out for a second, and then it took off, and I went chasing. I must have chased it for 15 or 20 minutes like that, and it finally went into the water. And then my buddies came up chasing up behind me, and he says, "What was it?" And I'm trying to explain to him what it looked like. And I had another friend, the other guy that was with us, he said, let's just go. Let's just leave. And this is the first time I've been in these woods, so he says he wanted to get back to his car and let's just leave. Well, anyways, we was like on the other side of the pond at this time, and we was trying to find this car that we parked out in the woods, and I got the best look at this orb or ball or whatever you want to call it, and those guys were walking behind me, and they was trying to figure out where they parked the car, but I was involved in talking about this ball of light. And all of a sudden, I looked up, and there was this guy standing about maybe 30 feet away from me, and he stood still. As soon as he seen me and I seen him, we made eye contact, and I'm staring really hard because it was kind of dark, and I couldn't tell if it was an owl or a deer, or somebody had a mask on, and then so I yelled, and it took off running. So I went chasing after this guy, and I caught up to him real quick. I could clearly outrun him.
Wow.
And but I had to hold myself back from running behind him because I didn't know what he was. I didn't want to touch him, but he was running. Look, he wasn't like bending at the knees. He was like running on his toes, like he was really light. And you could smell him with the breeze breaking off of him.
What did this look like then when you got close to it?
When I was looking at the back of his head when I was chasing right after him, it reminded me of one of these little kids that had that old, accelerated old man's disease. And that's what it reminded me of. But I noticed his skin was like a grayish color, it's like, you could sort of like patchy and look like it was maybe veins, but not for sure. I was like, holding myself back when I'm running, right behind him. I could have tackled him, but I couldn't bring myself to do it because I didn't know exactly what it was. It was like, like touching a spider. You don't.
Right.
It's like I was holding myself back the whole time, and now I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm thinking I'm just scaring this thing, and so I started going a little bit slower, and it kept on going, and it cut around this bush, and my buddy Bob, he cut up right behind me, and he said, which way to go? And I said, go around the bush that way, and we met up, and it was gone. And knowing everything I know now, that these guys have a cloaking ability, he was probably still there, and we didn't even know it.
Did your buddy see that little guy at all?
Yeah, he saw him, but he didn't make out as well as I did, because I was right up on him, and those guys were probably about 30 feet behind me, and this guy was 30 feet in front of me, the entity, or whatever you want to call him. But that was the first time I've seen anything like that, and we ended up finding the car, went back to town, and made the mistake of telling, hey, we think we saw an alien, and they're not green, and they're like, oh, come on, Dave, it's like, but true story.
When was this?
It was
80s.
Yeah, it might have been 89 or yeah, it might have been 1989. Don't quote me on it. There's a lot of things that's happened between that time, but my buddy wrote down the story as soon as we got back. We thought it was really cool that we seen something like that, but no, I didn't see the craft, but I did see an orb, we did see the light above the trees.
Wow.
We didn't know what it was, and then we run into this guy.
Are you still friends with that buddy who saw that entity also?
Yes.
Is he willing to talk about that night with you sometimes, or does he kind of just, because sometimes people just don't want to talk about that kind of thing?
No, we talked about it for years. It went almost 12 years went by. For about 2 weeks at that incident, I had dreams like that whole scenario over and over and over again, every single night for about 2 weeks. But yeah, we talked about it several times after that. I think that kind of held us together because we experienced it together. And he has a family now, and he lives out of the state. I think he's in New York. I talked to him about a year ago, and yeah, he'd be willing to talk about it because he's the one who wrote it down on paper. I had the original sheet of notebook paper he wrote on it with the date and everything. That was actually I gave to Lon Strickler on Phantoms and Monsters, and he posted it. But
so you say that you've also been since then communicating or getting messages from these things, and when did that start?
Well, the family and friends that have been with us, we've seen crafts and UFOs. I'm not really impressed by them unless they're up close. And we did see one that was up close down at Shoreline Park in Gulf Breeze, but this thing was humongous. I mean, it was It was big. It covered up the whole bay, and there was like 26 witnesses down there.
What did that look like?
It looked like a big triangle, and what happened is after I dropped a friend off at his house there in Gulf Breeze, and I stopped at Shoreline Park to use the restroom. And as I came out of the restroom, everybody was screaming and yelling and getting in the cars and peeling out. I'm like, what's going on, And then I looked over towards the bay, and there was this craft there. I mean, it was the biggest thing I've ever seen in the sky, the biggest thing. And I reached my truck window and grabbed out the binocular. My wife is still sitting in the front seat. And I pulled out the binocular, and I could see details of this craft. I mean, highly detailed. And there was a big window there. It must have been 8 foot tall by 12 foot. And I seen, which looked to me like humans walking up to this glass window, looking back down on us.
Wow.
And 2 lights dropped out of it and took off to the west. And all of a sudden, this whole craft vaporized right in front of everybody. You could still see it there. I could still see it there, but you could see the stars through it.
Wow.
And then exactly 8 minutes and 44 seconds later, that they recorded, some people was down there. It reappeared, and the 2 lights came from out of the east and went right back up in it, and it repeated the same process again. Did not make a single noise.
How big would you estimate this thing?
Probably 2 miles big, and I know you couldn't see the stars with it sitting there. It covered up in the whole bay across to there,
and people were really freaking out.
Yeah, I think they was acting like it was the end of the world or something.
Wow. And when was this? Was this?
I don't remember the date.
You think in the 90s or?
Yeah, it had to be in the 90s.
Probably during the period, because there were a lot of UFO sightings for a while out there.
Yeah, the Ed Walters case and everything. And by the way, a lot of people say they faked that, but I've seen 3 of those crafts together. And matter of fact, I know a guy that actually showed me a picture. He had 3 of them in the same picture. So that's a real UFO. You see all kinds of strange things in the sky down here. So
I guess so. So, and then with the communications, when did that start up? Was it somewhere around this time?
Well, we moved in this. I bought this house out in Gulf Breeze, and not too far from the woods. I had my first experience. I wanted the kids to grow up and go play in the woods. That's I did when I grew up, but so I wanted them to experience it too. But things would happen. Is that the house
you're in now?
No.
Oh, okay.
I've done got 2 other houses after that. So,
okay.
But just years before, maybe a year before I moved out of that Gulf Breeze house, I remember I was in the kitchen and my wife was cooking supper, and I went into the living room, sat down. I seen this thing that came out of the kitchen behind me and went down the hallway and went to my bedroom, but it was transparent. And I'm thinking, that's the first time I've seen anything like that. I was just thinking that maybe I sat down too fast or something, but it was moving pretty quick and looked like it had a bunch of bouncing balls in it. That's the first time I've seen that aspect, but when we moved out of that house in Gulf Breeze to the golf course in Milton, Florida, which is only about 15 or 18 miles away, we started seeing that stuff again.
Mhm.
And but they look more like apparitions or ghosts.
Mhm. I think in the Fact or Fake, you described it as kind of like the Predator movie, where it was kind of see-through-ish type of, but you can tell something's there.
Exactly, and it wouldn't be just one or two of them. I mean, there would be lots of them moving through, and the
Moving
cats
through the house?
Yeah, moving through the house, or when we was laying in bed at night, the furniture started cracking and popping really loud. You would hear you'd smell like burnt popcorn going on, and you would feel a temperature change or a draft, just like if you would think it was poltergeist.
Uh-huh.
And this time I moved in this house and I'm thinking, okay, I you reach a time in your life where you think you got everything together and everything's smoothed out, and then this stuff really starts happening. And this house is on a piece of property that was 17 acres big, and the house was like right out in the middle of it. It was surrounded by woods, and then they ended up developing it all around us. But we hear things at night. I wake up and you hear all the cabinet doors in the kitchen slamming and crashing and stuff like that, and I run in there, nothing's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Or we would wake up in the middle of the night and the room would be lit up like a pink or a blue color, several different times. There was different colors each time. But you would think it was morning time, and you look out the windows, it's pitch black, it's
Wow.
just 2:30 in the morning, and and then the light would just dim down. You couldn't tell where the light was coming from, but you'd always smell like that burnt popcorn smell, or you'd be laying in bed at night, and you could hear people whispering back and forth.
Mm.
You could hear music playing in the house. I tore apart the house, looking through the register vents, and just in case there was a clock radio or something, or it sounded like maybe somebody was parked outside the house in a car with the radio going. And it would be music anywhere from nowadays music to maybe the flamboyant 30s,
Would you recognize the music?
Some of the music I would.
Wow.
I'm not a big music fan, so, but I don't even watch much TV. I mean, I rent movies and put them in, but
yeah.
So,
sounds like you're a busy guy.
I'm a pretty boring person, okay?
Yeah.
So, but I pretty much concentrate on work, but things was starting to get escalate. My wife was saying, man, this is weird. Maybe I didn't believe in ghosts at this time. I said, maybe the house is haunted. The kids were reacting. My wife was getting pictures of strange things on Polaroid, like orbs and stuff like that. My daughter was, and then she got this picture one time that looked like a couple of people was looking in the window, and which really got my attention because it was on a Polaroid, and it was 2 stories up in the air, the window.
Whoa.
Okay, so my son said, well, I'm going to get a camera. You got a VHS camera, and we played around with that, and we started catching things on that, but it was always really fuzzy, and it looked like ghosts, and I said, well, we got to be able to clear it up, get something better, so I got one of these Hitachi cameras. It was like an 800 zoom disc, It was high tech for me, but we started recording and catching them. So, but it wasn't always that clear. You could say, well, maybe it was this, maybe it was that, or maybe it was, the lighting, and then I just worked my way up to doing experiments, like setting the camera up in the bedroom and see what I would get. And I would run this thing every single night because things were happening over and over, and then I started catching things. And then I think that the entities that was visiting us, well, God, wherever they come from, they started catching on to that we knew that it was there, and I think they started testing us. So it was like a a game of chess. They would do something, then I would do something back. And every experiment that I would use, and some of the ones that would work, within 24 hours, I wouldn't be able to reuse that same experiment again because they would improve.
Huh.
They don't like getting on video. But, yeah, have I talked to them? Sure. We tried talking to them first, but they don't really talk to you unless they feel it's necessary or they're going to gain something from it. Believe me, I'm not that special that they're going to come out and tell me where they're from or who they are.
Well, what kind of, then, how do they communicate with you, and what sort of things do they tell you?
They told me things about what was going on in my family. They told me some future events that come true.
Wow.
I think everything's come true, and the biggest one that they showed me has not happened yet, but it's on its way.
Is it scary?
Yeah, I mean, it depends what you consider scary.
Uh-huh.
But
some sort of catastrophe or something?
Yeah, you know, we got some time though. We got some time. 2012. You know, I looked at everybody asked me about that, and it doesn't fit in. So no, I think we got possibly maybe my speculation 18 years left.
Really?
Just my speculation, right? But
now,
there's a lot of things that would kind of happen between that time too. So.
Now you said that these things, you're hesitant to call them aliens, and you kind of do, but you're not sure where they come from?
Well, there's a possibility. I heard somebody talking about the latrino system, and it's not a place outside our solar system. I think it's maybe dimensional, possibly. And the way they was talking is like the government knows about them. So I'm not saying that that's where they're from, but it would fit into what I've seen and what was going on. So that they're possibly dimensional. But they able to open this natural barrier up and be able to come into our dimension. It's possible.
Now
they do find it amusing that we call them aliens. They chuckle. Okay.
Huh. Now, does it seem like they have a sense of humor? You say that you kind of trick each other back and forth type of thing.
Yeah, I was living in the house I am now, and they came and visited me, and they was right on time, just like they said they would be in the month of April, and because they was coming to check out, that was last April, they was coming to check out some stuff that was happening, like the volcano that erupted, the BP spill that they told me about, and some flooding in Tennessee that they was coming and checking out. But there was 3 of them, the Grays, that was standing by my doorway. I'm laying in bed, and there was one of them was talking to the other one, and he says he calls us aliens, and then they started chuckling. So that had me bubbled up in my head. So if they're not aliens, what the heck are they?
So with this communication that happens, is it like people describe a mental thing, or are they, you can hear them, like the music?
No, they know what I'm thinking, and I'm guessing that it might have to do with some kind of implant that reads you, because they're not totally correct all the time what I'm thinking. But I think that they can read it in such a way that they can pretty much get a good, speculation of what you're thinking. Some of them seem to be telepathic, but I don't know if it's because they all have implants in them and that they communicate with each other that way, or what. But it just seems to be that way. I can't read their minds, but they know what I'm thinking, they'll talk about it when I'm thinking about it.
Oh, but they will talk verbally, so there'll be a sound.
Yeah, English is like the language of the birds. It's a universal language, and not all of them speak it. And reptilians seem to be able to speak it pretty good, and the Greys seem to be able to speak it too. I don't know. I don't understand that. I've heard these stories that they communicate telepathically. I don't understand that. But the guys speak pretty well English.
So you say a reptilian. Is this something that you've seen up close also?
Oh yeah, they've handled me. So,
really? And how big are they?
Anywhere from 5'8" to 7 foot tall. And they eat fish. Rotten fish don't smell very good. And they'll get it all over them, and they're easy to pick out when they're in, even when they're invisible. Because they can clothe themselves, they can be totally invisible. You wouldn't even know they were standing in a room, and I did an experiment. I know how to expose them. Absolutely works every single time.
So, and what is that?
I use a fog machine.
Okay, because I noticed, and that was going to be one of the questions. Well, before I get to that, though, some of your videotaping and the methods you use, how many different types of entities have you seen?
Well, I can. I call them maybe a species because there's more than one of them, and some of them that they look pretty messed up. I don't call them a species because I've only seen one of them. Or they might be genetically altered. There's humans that live with them, but it might be genetically engineered humans because they help them. They're treated like third-class citizens. They don't have the best living quarters. And they do whatever they're told to do. And these guys are very interested in archaeological digs as well. They're looking for the same answers as we are. They're looking for technology. I think maybe some forbidden archaeological stuff that they're looking for, because I've seen some things, what they was doing, and they had like labor camps going on down there. So there's different types of reptilians. There's the scaly-looking type of reptilian that looks like us, but they look reptilian. And then they got the other kind that look more like between a frog and a silverback ape without the hair. They got the long arms, short legs, and they even walk around their fists and their legs until they walk up to each other, and they'll stand straight up and talk.
Wow. So quite a few. And then what's the hierarchy like? So you said these human types are kind of the lower class.
Well, they're the ones that's more like the silverback ape, frog-looking kind of guys. I call them frog-looking because they have more of a frog-looking face.
And how big are they?
Pretty stout. It's about 7 foot, maybe a little bit taller.
Wow.
And they do have weapons. And they're pretty big. They can pick me up underneath my armpits and carry me out of the house. So they're pretty strong.
And
my feet are not touching the floor when they're carrying me out.
And how are these guys kind of workers too?
No, they're more like a renegade. They seem like maybe black market or military. They don't seem to care for humans very well.
Who seems to be in charge?
I've not figured that out. I've asked them many times to let me talk to somebody in charge.
Let me talk to the boss.
I just upset them every time I do that. So.
Really? So then, although you said these big guys don't seem to think much of humans, at least it doesn't seem like they're treating you too bad. So, are any of them like? I guess their nature, benevolent versus malevolent. I mean, are they more indifferent to people? Are some of them very loving to people? And do some of them you think are doing really bad things, possibly killing people?
Well, this is the best way I can describe it.
Mhm.
If you go to a shopping mall, and to say that everybody in that shopping mall is good, loving, or murderous, or raping, or hateful, or very loveful, that would be discriminating. They're all different. They all have their own personalities.
Mhm.
Some of them I would call human huggers, and some of them they couldn't care less if you lived or died. But that's true. I can't. Everybody asks me, are they good or bad? Well, depending on which one. I met some that seemed like they had an interest in me, but they always rotated them. So nobody would get attached to their job that they was doing, to me. So they would rotate every 2 weeks to every 3 months, depending on what they was doing.
So
they're not allowed to get attached.
Which sort of entities were the human huggers?
Didn't matter. It could be the Greys, but they don't really talk much. They're pretty much off on the sidelines observing or whatever. But they had some that seem to be pretty smart. They talk like me and you, but they talk about human rights and that. It's like if I guess how we have laboratories that we have animals in there, and then you got these people that would go in there and set them all free and stuff. They're kind of like that. That's what they remind me of. So, but they always shoo them off, like go away.
Yeah. Let us do our work. And
right.
So, and have other family members then also seen and communicated with these beings?
Well, when this stuff started first happening, and I was still thinking it was ghosts and stuff, my son would sit in the room with me and my wife, and we would wait for him to show up, and we would interact with him. And matter of fact, that was the first time I touched him, and we would touch him and interact with him, and because they was in a transparent state, and they feel like a wet static electricity. That's the only way I can describe it. But that's before they was becoming more solid. They just started doing that as time went on, I guess, to see what we could handle. That's the only thing I can guess why they was doing that.
Sort of like they acclimated you to their presence.
Right, exactly. And then as time would go on, I would lay in bed at night like I was asleep. And they're impatient. They're creatures of habit. They're predictable. So it was easy for me to do some of the things I did because they was predictable. And they would come into the room if they thought I was asleep and then come and get me out, but they would be in solid form. This is not that sleep paralysis or whatever. This is not that, because I would lay there and wait, and they move things to pick up things. They would look through my drawers at night. They would they would talk back and forth, but they've never taken anything but a couple of DVDs of mine.
Wow, and what do they do with those?
Because I got some pretty good video, and they know what I have, and they took some of my best ones.
Oh, so they took the video of you videoing them?
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
And some of them they altered.
And then returned?
Right, but they ended up taking them back, too, because they were so poorly done.
Interesting. So
Yeah,
they kind of are... They sound very much like people. I mean, just regular people.
Exactly.
I mean, bumbling and screwing up and various different personalities amongst the different species.
Exactly. That they're not. They conduct themselves pretty close to like us, but their culture, the way they do things, are way different. Matter of fact, we would not get along with them if they was here.
Why is that? What are some of the differences?
I'm gonna keep some of those things to myself, but yeah, we would be at war, and if anybody is the government knows what I know. This 1/8, there'll never be disclosure. Never. So, I mean, they're not bad, but they just don't fit in. You know, I don't care how many times you see them. It's hard to take your eyes off of them because it's hard to believe what you're looking at. And I introduced one of my friends to him, and how conveniently he's dead right now because his house blew up by a gas leak. But he touched him, and he was a big old burly guy. He was one of my employees and a good friend on top of that, you know, and all tattooed up and a real tough guy. And I was telling him about it, and he was like, David, you sound psychotic. I said, no, you got to come over and see this for yourself. And he's like, well, if I come over, they're not going to bother me, are they? Well, if you don't believe me, then you ain't got nothing to worry about, do you?
Right.
Well, anyways, he decided he's going to come over that night, and I said, okay. About 1:30, this stuff starts happening. You know, I brought him into my bedroom. Me and my wife, we sat on the edge of the bed, and we waited and we waited and we talked, and all of a sudden, we felt a cold draft like you always do, and all of a sudden they started coming into the room, and he says, what? And I said, there they are, and he started getting these tears through his eyes, and he's like, oh my God, Dave, I'll never doubt you again. And I said, you can touch him. This is cool. And he's touching him, and he's got tears running out of his eyes. He said, Dave, I cannot believe this, you know. Well, in about 30 minutes or so, we messed around with them and everything, and I was, you know, showing them different things about them. And then they leave, and he went to bed. And he slept on the couch that night. And the next morning when I got up, I went in there and I woke him up and says, hey, I said, what do you think about last night? And he sat up and he looked at me. He said, David, you power suggested me to see that. I'm like, how did I do that? You touched him. You was there. You experienced it, but it wasn't. He didn't deal with it very good after that. I felt kind of bad that I shouldn't have done that, but I just had to show somebody, you know. So, but he was a good friend of mine, and he's not with us anymore. So.
Wow. So how do you handle it? Because it seems like, you know, from the TV show, you have a really nice house. Your house looks really nice. You're successful, and you're able to go about your regular life. How do you do that with also all of these experiences?
It was tough at first. Don't get me wrong. It was interfering with my concentration at work, because I really love what I do, and I'm a hard worker, and I enjoy what I do, and I enjoy meeting the people and making their dreams come true. That's what I do for a living, and I look at everything very scientifically, and there's got to be. If I wasn't checking the craziness of what I was seeing, if I didn't do my experiments to try to get down to the bottom of what was going on, because they almost had me convinced it was ghosts, it wasn't hurting the family. It wasn't hurting us. It was making a lot of noise. They'd taken us out of the house. And one night that they brought my children down to my bedroom and threw them across the foot of my bed. There was a reptilian there, and I sat up in the bed as my son and daughter was laying across the foot of the bed in like a comatose state. And he looked at me, I looked at him, he says, does this bother you? I didn't want to blow it. So I told him I trust you. And then he carried us all out of the house that night.
What do they do with you when they take you out of the house?
They've taken me to so many different places. They've taken blood from me. They've taken things out of me that look like liver. I watched them put something in my right heel of my foot. I watched them do surgeries on me, and some of it looks barbaric, but they seem to know what they're doing. So
kind of treat you guys like guinea pigs.
Right. They always separated us. Like when they taken me and my wife out of the house, we were just able to talk back and forth to each other as they was carrying us out of the house. The first time that we were totally conscious when they took us out.
Were you guys freaking out at that point?
I'm sorry?
Were you freaking out when they're carrying you both out of the house so you could talk to each other?
No, because when it was in there, we was like hearing like growling and talking going on, and we was in there looking at each other. This is when I was trying to figure out if it was bad or good. So I asked him, I said, "Are you bad or are you good?" It was still in this transparent state, and it was. I don't know where the growling was coming from, but you could see the apparitions that looked like a predator-type apparition. And all of a sudden, within 3 seconds of asking that, my feet, I mean, I didn't catch on to it, but at first, but my feet just started going numb, and one up to my legs, up to my hips, and up to my torso, you know, and all the way up to my head, and it was like being a limp biscuit, you know, it's like you couldn't move, but it felt good at the same time. And it was like hard to move your mouth, but I could still talk through my teeth. I'm like, "Oh my God, do you feel that?" My wife was responding back, "Oh my God, yes, do you feel that too?" You know, and all of a sudden they picked us up out of the bed. They didn't float me. They picked me up underneath the armpits, and I'm like, I feel like a dangling doll. But you have the sensation of floating, but they're not. They're carrying you.
Mm-hmm.
And they carried us right through this porthole. And as soon as we went through it, it was like it went pitch black. You couldn't tell what was up or which was down or sideways. And then up ahead in the distance, there was a light, like another doorway. And as soon as we passed through that, it was like we was outside, and I remember seeing it looked like a airplane hangar, like concrete squares as for pavement out there, and there was these 3 cubicle-looking buildings. They carried us inside these, and there was these like reptilian-looking doctors in blue scrubs, and the bed folded out of the wall, and they were standing there at attention, and they carried me through the first cubicle, which was maybe a 10-foot by 14-foot long, right around that vicinity. But I know it was like a white, it looked like it had maybe padding on the walls, and it had a window that I could still see out the window at the airplane hangar looking thing. And they carried me by the first doctor, and I'm assuming that my wife was in the first one, and then they took me to the second one, but I don't remember anything after that. It was totally blank.
Mm-hmm.
I remember going to work the next morning, and I was like halfway to work, and I remembered that happened, and I called my wife up. I said, "Hey, did that happen last night?" She's like, "Yeah, that happened last night," and we was trying to talk back and forth, but I had a hard time concentrating at work that day, too.
Yeah, I'll bet. Now, why you? Because it does seem like this stuff is centered around your family or you in particular, possibly. Do you have any sense of the reason why?
I thought I was Batman. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know why. I've asked him that. And one night that they took me out, and I asked for a reptilian that was at the end of my bed. It was a female. And they drug me to the end of my bed. You know, they pulled my blankets off me, grabbed me up beneath the armpits, and drug me to the end of my bed. And it was like a porthole, Stargate, whatever you want to call it. It was open up behind her, and she was standing there, and she had a smirk on her face. And I asked her, I said, "Why are you doing this?" And she just turned around and started walking away, and she said, "Because you're special." Mm-hmm. And she just kept on walking, and I said, "Bull crap, I gotta have a better answer than that, you know." It's like, you could tell anybody that, you know what I'm saying? So, but I mean, but that's true story.
That's the only answer they give you, though, huh?
Right. They never give me no direct answer. And it's hard to get things out of them, but they tell me some things, but and they show me things, and
now you've got some videos on the internet, and you know, some of them they showed on the Fact or Fake, and one of them is pretty straightforward. The one which is probably the most impressive, and they seem to feel so too, where you have your camera set up over by the door of the bathroom, and it's recording a security mirror so you could get the whole room, and then in pretty near the camera by the bathroom, you see what kind of looks like a gray kind of peek around the corner.
Right. Yeah. That was almost 2.5 hour play, but when I got up that morning, I never seen it happen. I never seen it. But I got up that morning and I always checked my camera, and they said there was data that was damaged on it, but the camera gave me an option to rebuild the lost data. So I don't know that much about my camera, but so I said, well, there might be something on it. So I hit the button, and it was still working on it by the time I left for work. So I just let it go. So when I came back home from work, it was actually just finishing up rebuilding the data. So then I took the camera into my office and I hooked it up to the computer, and everything was still blank. All the way up to the very end, I seen a flash of light. And so I kept going back and forth, and I couldn't find it. And all of a sudden, it showed up. So I had to go frame by frame. It happened in a half a second. So I had this program with Win DVD number 7. Well, anyways, I could break down frame by frame by second by, there's 30 frames in a second. So that happened in those 15 frames of that second. That's why it's jumpy, because you would miss it if it was on full speed. And so it happened just a half a second.
So it was really quick.
Right. So, and that's the only thing my camera gave back to me, and I showed my son that. I said, hey, check this out, and because I thought it was my son at first, but my son was like 14 or 15 years old at that time. So, but he started getting tears to his eyes. It's like, oh wow, this is cool. But that's not my favorite video. I got a video of a gray entity standing next to my dresser, and I got that frame by frame too, which isn't on the internet, but I have it on my computer.
Is it only recently that I noticed someone started posting your videos?
Right,
a friend of yours?
Lon Strickler. He was posting them, but actually a man named Mr. Eckhart, they're Rochester Paranormal. He's the one who put the original video out there, and he's like, it's like, is this for real? I said, you see what you're seeing. Okay, that's what I'm telling you. And he says, yes, and I have been having visitations. And he says, there's a fake Bigfoot out there and everything. He says, but I'll take a chance to put this out there and see what kind of response we get. And he put it out there, and then a year goes by, and I get a hold of Lon. I talked to him, and then Lon started investigating my case, and he did a really good job. Lon from Phantoms and Monsters, and he's really the only one that took attention to it, because I called up people to come out to my house with some better equipment. I tried, and they never show up. I went out of my way. I talked to people after people that had maybe some knowledge. Come to find out, nobody knew any more than I did. And I know the story sounds crazy, so I didn't blame them for not coming out to the house. But the only reason why I put this out there is because I wanted better equipment to get what I got. But and I told the Ben Hansen from Factor Fake, I said, listen, you give me a camera that takes 100 frames a second, so I'll get the best video the world's ever seen. He says, well, I don't know nobody that can do that. I said, okay, then fine, I'm done. It's like, I don't care if I videotape them anymore, because I got my answers, while everybody has to try to figure out if this really exists. And do they still come and visit me? Yes, they do. So, but I don't pick and choose when they come and see me.
Yeah, I know. It really, makes me want to get out there and investigate, because it is a far-fetched story, but I mean, I know there have been times where I have found out that some of these far-fetched stories are true, so firsthand also. So One of the things, okay, about the video too is that one of the videos, and some of these you can see online, like you set up a strobe and you set up candles, and there's a lot going on. Then you have a laser and or a flashlight that you kind of move around the room. Why do you do all that when you're videotaping?
Okay. Well, let me tell you that was just another experiment I was doing.
Okay.
Because it was getting harder and harder to catch them on video, even though that they were showing up. Just because they showed up don't mean you get them on video.
Right.
And so I decided to take everything I knew, everything I tried, and everything that worked half but, and throw it all at them at one time.
Okay.
If I could confuse them, they don't like the strobe light. And if you listen to the video that actually come off of, you can hear growling and all kinds of things going on. And yes, we was hearing those noises, but there was like a loud humming sound in there that we did not hear, and that could have been it was picking up the frequency from the TV set, because everything was piped into the TV, so I could lay there in bed and see what my camera's picking up through my TV set. Okay, nothing was added. The sounds are absolutely there. To me, it sounds like animals. Some people say it sounds like a hull of a ship, but those are actual noises, and this is the noises that would wake us up in the middle of the night. And
I guess people could Google just David Eckhart and be able to see those, and because they are really, that sound, I did see that was really weird. And then in the video, it's almost like I couldn't see, everything that they saw. I could see what looked like a kind of a half torso, maybe kind of floating in the air or something.
Right. There was some. I never saw that happen. But to me, in the video, you see the half torso. I think there's another one holding him by the legs. And during fact or fake, if I hang something from the ceiling right there, the easiest way to find out if somebody ever hung something there would to be go up in the attic, pull back the insulation, and see if there was something hung there. I never owned a coat rack. Okay, never owned one in my entire life.
That was one thing I was curious about, because they bring in this coat rack. Why would you have a coat rack in your room? And I thought, well, maybe that coat rack was in the house, but that was something they brought in. You didn't have that in the house.
No, I never had one in my life.
Gotcha.
So, but no, what was in that spot was one of these. It was a fake palm tree. That's what was sitting in that spot. I had a fake palm tree there, and that doesn't look like a fake palm tree to me. So, but there's actually two entities there. When as the light goes across the first entity, the one you can see the face and like the arm on it, and then you start seeing another white spot on that. That's the second entity that's showing up as I was shining the light on it. You can't see them straight on. I'm going to let you on a little secret. You can see these guys a lot better in perpendicular vision. These guys are around us all the time, and you wouldn't even know it, because I don't know if you ever been sitting at a desk or something like that, and you see something like out of the corner of your eye looks like a shadow. Well, that was going on a lot, and come to find out, if you just stand there and you wait, you can start seeing them moving around, and you get right up next to you. That's these guys. You cannot see them straight on. It's the technology. It's not spiritual. It's not their ghost. It's not because they're not there. It's their technology. They know how to hide in our vision. They're all around us. I'm not the only one this is going on to. So if I'm special, that makes everybody special. Just because you haven't stopped and looked around and find out that they're there, you'll never know they're not there.
Do you think that this stuff is happening more and more people are able to be aware of the presence of these things, and or are they around more?
They've always been there. You should. What I've learned from these guys, they've always been there, and I would say within the next 20 years, we'll have computers that will detect them. Motion detectors detect them. They catch them before I even see them.
Mm-hmm.
When I got my fog machine the first time, my wife ordered it for me over the internet because one night I was sitting at the table and we was eating, and I noticed that these things would be walking through the house and they would be collecting dust and spider webs. So one got close enough to the table, so I took my cigarette cellophane and pulled it off my cigarette and stuck it to him. He could follow him through the house that way. It was like it sticks to a TV screen or to your finger.
Really? It stuck to it.
The same, and that's where I got the idea to use the fog machine. It works every single time.
Wow.
So,
and you can see the outline of it.
Video, that's the way to do it.
And you see the outline of the shapes in the fog.
And you can start to see. You can see them, but you can still see through them. But it gives them more texture.
Huh.
That's the Zeta-looking guy that I got standing next to my dresser. Actually, the first time I turned it on, there was 5 of them in my bedroom, and that's just where I happened to have my camera. And as soon as they found out that the gig was up, it was all over, and they all took off. But the one that was standing by my dresser, I got it frame by frame. He ditches behind my dresser, and another one comes through a porthole right behind him and comes up to my little table before he figures out he's being seen too. So, but first 30 seconds. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, we're pretty much out of time right now for the radio show, but thank you so much for sharing all of this. It's pretty incredible what's going on here.
Well, it's you get used to it. It might be incredible to some people, but you get used to it, and they're around us all the time. They are, and they know more about us than we know about them.
Well, I'm sure if you haven't watched that Fact or Faked, that this has intrigued you enough to go check it out, because, yeah, what this guy is saying is pretty hard to swallow. It's some pretty strange stuff, wild stuff from all these different creatures and portals and interdimensional as opposed to extraterrestrial, and being able to communicate with these guys. So it's very strange stuff. And go to Fact or Faked. You know, Hulu has it up, I know, right now. I think Jason said he saw it on the Sci-Fi Network's page. You can go watch this show right now. So go check it out if you haven't seen it, and watch the investigation, and, get to see what this guy looks like, because it's hard to tell from his voice, his mannerisms and everything. And go check out his house. I mean, he's a successful businessman. And I think that's what lends to his credibility. You get to see his wife, who just looks like seems like a very normal person. Very strange stuff. So, and if you think this is strange, we're not done with the strangeness, because in the upcoming weeks we have more strange out there stuff. Next week, we've got Whitley Strieber, of course, a famous author. Everybody knows who he is. He did the movie Communion, or he wrote the book Communion about his abduction experiences. And I think, even before I was really into UFOs, when the movie Communion came out, I've always been fascinated with the actor who played him, whose name eludes me, Christopher Walken. Luckily, I got it before the show was over. Christopher Walken, a weird dude in the first place. So he played this character, which is really strange in the movie, so it was very intriguing. And, of course, what Whitley went through is also very strange. He mainly brought abductions to the forefront. So we'll talk about abductions, but we'll also talk about his new book, and that's what I mean about some strange stuff. He talks about when he was promoting Communion, some guy came to his hotel room in the middle of the night and sat down for half an hour and let him know about all of this really deep stuff, the secrets to the universe and humankind. And he talked to this guy for half an hour, was downloaded all of this information, and now he's sharing it. He wrote it in a book that he kind of privately published, and you could get it from his website. It's called The Key. But now it's been printed by Doubleday. It's being released on the 12th. You can go pre-order from Amazon. So we've got Whitley Strieber next week. It should be a very good show. I'm definitely excited to talk to him. more about this, and I've gotten a preview of the book, and it's very interesting. So join us next week. Thanks for listening to Open Minds Radio. Don't forget to visit openminds.tv for more UFO news, and we will talk to you next week. Thanks for joining us.